Thanks so much, Kristen. We start here. The Albuquerque man who tried to shoot someone right next to a police DWI checkpoint is expected to face a judge this morning. Sergio Parento Sr. is facing child abuse and weapons charges. Police say the dad had his 13-year-old son drive him to this gas station at San Mateo in Candelaria to buy more booze. While he was there, police say he got into a fight with a random man, then shot at him. Luckily, he missed. Police say he also fired about 7 rounds in the air. They did stop the car in a nearby neighborhood. Police say it's a miracle that no one was hurt.
The 13-year-old himself was a victim. His dad forcing him to get in that car, drive him down the street to get more beer, then involvement in a shooting. Ridiculous.
It's crazy. It's disgusting, and it definitely is like out of line.
Police say Barrientos' son is not facing charges because he was not in on the fight or the shooting and was fearful for his life. Now, we did some checking and found Barrientos has a minimal criminal history right here in New Mexico. Online court records show just 1 arrest for assault. Those charges were dropped. We're learning more about a long police standoff that ended in gunfire early Saturday morning. It all started Friday around noon when Edgewood police responded to a 911 call claiming a man shot at someone with a rifle. After finding a suspect, police say he refused to get out of the car and was threatening to shoot officers. The standoff dragged into the early morning hours on Saturday. That's when state police say the man threatened officers in some way, and several of their officers opened fire, killing him.
I don't know one police officer that comes to work wanting this to happen, and it's an unfortunate circumstance, but at the end of the day, our officers are facing a level of violence out there that's unprecedented.
Police are not saying how many officers shot or how many times. They also have not identified the suspect. One of 2 Navajo Nation police officers who was wounded in the line of duty will get to go home this week. According to the Farmington Daily Times, Officer James Hill will be released from the hospital. Officer Herbert Frazier was also hit. He's already been released. Frazier and Hill were shot while responding to a suspected domestic violence call. That's when police say Justin Fowler took off, eventually stopping and shooting at police in Red Valley, Arizona. Officer Alex Yazzie was killed in that shooting. Fowler was also shot and killed. On to this. Imagine losing your pet. If you have, you know how scary it can be. But what if animal welfare picked up your dog or cat only to put it up for adoption without telling you? One man says it almost happened to him. News 13's Catherine Mazzone tracked down both sides of the story. She's here with the latest. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Chris. So now all pets in the city are required to have a microchip so that places like animal welfare can easily trace an animal back to its owner. But what pet owner says the city isn't using that information? And the city tells us he's wrong.
Meet Rohan. This Chihuahua is somewhat of a Houdini. He's escaped from his home more than once, twice landing in the hands of animal welfare. Rohan's owner Jason says both times his frantic search ended in frustration.
He ended up being taken to VCA. The city of Albuquerque gave him the wrong ID number and told me they'd found him, and when I went to go pick him up, they had the wrong dog.
Jason didn't want to go on camera, but says he waited 6 hours until an employee could transport his pup from VCA.
That it was disorganized.
The second time, Jason says he saw Rohan on the department's website, but
I wasn't even notified that they'd had him, and he already had an adoptable date.
we took Jason's concerns to the city. Desiree Crawley with Animal Welfare brought Rohan's records to the interview. She says when they found Rohan the first time, they scanned his microchip and found Jason's information.
I made an attempt to call him, also went to his house, but wasn't there.
Crawley says Jason had the wrong phone number on file. She says they only got in touch with him after he reported his dog missing.
I've had the same phone number for 5 years.
The second time, Crawley says Rohan arrived after they had closed for the day. Jason was there less than 12 hours later.
Before we could even process and make our list as to who we're going to call, letting people know that we have their pets, he was already in.
How do they have time to put him on the website and give him an adoptable date, but don't have time to contact me?
Jason's not satisfied with their explanations, but the city says the records speak for themselves. Regardless, Jason vows he'll never take his eyes off Rohan again.
We checked in with animal welfare after our interview with Jason. They tell us they're not to blame for the mix-up at VCA, but say it was a simple mistake. Representatives say what's most important is that Rohan was returned to his owner unharmed. Crystal, back to you.
All right, thanks, Catherine. Now, while Jason and the city do not agree, they both have important messages for you on how you can better protect your pets. We'll have that coming up in our next half hour. Yesterday's Easter service had quite the turnout over at University Stadium. This picture shows a massive crowd that showed up for the state's largest holiday church service called Sunrise Service. The Calvary Church at Albuquerque put the event together. Every year, thousands turn out to hear the Easter sermon at 7:30 in the morning. And it wasn't just families out enjoying the festivities yesterday. Even the zoo animals got to have some fun in a very unique way. Yesterday, zoo staff held a unique event called Easter Enrichment, where they handed out paper mache, cereal bars, and of course dyed eggs for the animals to enjoy.
We haven't been here in a long time, so my husband works overseas. He just came home, so we decided to make a family event of it.
People were there bright and early when the zoo opened to see the critters devour their Easter spoils. We turn now to this. Back in Boston, closing arguments are expected to begin today for the Boston Marathon bomber, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. From the beginning, the Boston Marathon bomber trial has been less about guilt and more focused on life or death for the defendant. His defense team plans on focusing on suggesting Tsarnaev fell under the influence of his radicalized older brother, Tamerlan. Jurors have been shown a timeline of activities leading up to the explosion. Jurors will first decide the 30 charges. If found guilty, then the penalty phase will begin. Police say tempers flared while people waited in long lines at a bar opening late Friday night. Take a look at this video. Some people were apparently cutting in line, resulting in at least 15 people fighting in the food court at the resort's World Casino in Queens. Media reports that once the group went out to the parking lot, shots were then heard. Police believe this may have been gang-related. 3 people were arrested or ticketed on disorderly conduct charges. 1 officer and at least 2 other people were injured as well. Resorts World says it's enhancing security to prevent future incidents like this. Did you see that? Somebody just threw a chair there. A high-ranking lawman continuing to follow some developing news this morning. Police say they've arrested a drunk driver accused of hitting a police car that injured an officer. It happened a little after midnight near Copper in Wyoming. Police say the officers were on their way to a call when they say this woman clipped the wheels of a patrol car. Police say that caused one of the officers inside to hit his head on the window. That officer was taken to the hospital to be treated for injuries. After failing a field sobriety test, officers did arrest the woman. No word on the driver's name or the list of charges she will face. We'll bring you the latest as it does come into our newsroom. Neighbors in southeast Albuquerque say there's been a rash of crime in their neighborhood, and now one man is taking a stand, capturing these crooks on camera, and hopes police can nab the bad guys. Alan Swain owns a duplex in the area that he rents out to tenants. He says he added 1 camera 2 years ago to help police catch crooks in the alley just behind his home. But what he found was a string of crime taking place, so he continued to add more cameras. Now he sees everything.
You know, I probably stopped like 15 or 20 car burglaries here, most of the time just running out there going, hey, what the heck are you doing with my car? And they'll take off running down the street.
Now, just recently, he recorded an attempted car theft, people doing drugs, and what he says looks like men trying to steal items. Neighbors say they're thankful Swain is monitoring their neighborhood. He says he posts these videos online to the social networking site Nextdoor. He also sends them to police. We're working to find out more about a shooting that happened in southeast Albuquerque after 7 last night. Police are not saying much, but we do know that one person was brought to the emergency room with a gunshot wound to the stomach. We'll continue to follow the story and bring you the latest as it does come into our newsroom. Now, typically, police are looking for a suspect in a shooting. Not this time. This morning, APD is trying to find someone who may have been shot. They say a shooting happened at the Circle K near Manal and University around 8 last night. They were able to get there pretty quickly and arrest Christian Wood, the man who they think fired the shots. Whoever he was shooting at, though, they took off before they could talk to them. They don't know if that person was hurt or what sparked the shooting at this time. Albuquerque Public Schools is trying to shoot down the accusations made by Superintendent Winston Brooks in a lawsuit. As part of a buyout agreement, Brooks got a $350,000 buyout to leave his job as long as the district did not badmouth him. But according to a lawsuit, Brooks's replacement, Brad Winter, did just that in an Albuquerque Journal article, saying that no one at the public education department wanted to work with Brooks. Now Brooks wants another $125,000 from APS. According to the Journal, APS now claims in a court filing that the newspaper's quotes were wrong. But the Journal's editor says the paper story was accurate and says no one from the district ever contacted them to correct the record. The Albuquerque School Board is expected to choose the district's next superintendent this week. They've whittled a pool of 59 applicants down to 6, 2 people from New Mexico, 2 people from Texas, 2 from California. The candidates will each participate in public forums this week, and then the board is expected to make its final decision come Saturday. One Albuquerque resident says what happened after the city picked up his pooch is really upsetting. Now he's warning other pet owners. News 13's Catherine Mazzone has his message as well as what the city says in response. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Crystal. Now, the first time little Rohan escaped from home, his owner says a good Samaritan found him and took him to a vet clinic. The vet clinic then called the microchip company, who immediately contacted him. The man says he can't understand why the city didn't do the same when they came across his pet.
Don't let your dogs out of your sight, because if they get out and they get to the city, chances are you might not get a call and your dog will be on the website with an adoptable date, and if you don't know to look on the website, you won't know.
Jason says animal welfare needs a better system for notifying owners when their pet is found. But the city says that their system works. Reps with the department tell us each time an animal comes in, its microchip is scanned. They attempt to contact the owner via phone, and if that doesn't work, they send a letter. While Jason's not buying it, animal welfare says they did their due diligence in caring for his pet.
When you're on your second reclaim, then, there's a problem. We do appreciate the fact that he came in and being a dedicated pet owner and became his pet.
While microchips are required in Albuquerque, animal welfare says there are further steps you can take to protect your pet, like making sure that information is always up to date, having a current photo of your animal, and ensuring your fence is secure. Crystal, back to you.
Some pretty good tips there. Thanks so much, Catherine. Now, if your pet does escape, they encourage you to constantly check the website and file a missing report immediately. Easter Sunday here in Albuquerque was a perfect day to spend the holiday outside. We caught up with some families at Kit Carson Park yesterday, many with big plans, which included cooking up a meal and spending a lot of time together.
We're celebrating, we're gonna hunt eggs, we're gonna eat and all that. Just to have fun and be together.
We came to eat and we're gonna start hiding the eggs so the kids collect for them. They have toys and then we have some with candy.
And of course, with the weather being so nice, we saw a lot of people getting out, visiting parks and even the Biopark Zoo. It's a strange case. Police say a woman had been dead in a home for years. Her body found after fire crews were helping clean up a hoarding case. It happened in San Francisco, California, as cleaning crews and firefighters began clearing the debris. They found the mummified remains of a 95-year-old woman. The woman's 65-year-old daughter says she knew her mother's body was there, but it's not clear why she did not tell anyone. Neighbors are creeped out by all of this and say they had not seen the woman in a while and that the daughter had always been quiet. Rolling Stone magazine is now backtracking this after the magazine's editor says the publication found discrepancies in a recent article about a gang rape in a frat house. In the article, it detailed a woman named Jackie's account of being gang raped at the Pi Kappa Psi fraternity during the fall of 2012. But a recent report found some of those accounts untrue, such as the party the weekend she claimed she was attacked. Despite the backlash, Sabrina Erdley, the article's author, released a formal apology yesterday, saying, quote, "I hope that my mistakes in reporting this story do not silence the victims, or voices rather, of victims that need to be heard." A couple